Hello everyone, welcome to our YouTube channel Buddha Affirmation. Here every story has a purpose and every lesson is meant to help you grow in a life. So let's dive into a new story that will teach you about the value of time. So let's start the story. Once upon a time, in a small and quiet village in the countryside, there lived an old man named John. He was very respected by the villagers because of his wisdom, hard work, and kind nature. But despite all that, John had a problem that troubled him day and night. It was not a problem with his neighbors, his land, or even his health. The source of his worry was his only son, Jack. Jack was good-hearted young man, but he was incredibly lazy. Most boys at his age were learning skill, working hard, or helping their families with the farm work. But Jack did none of that. He spent his day wandering around the village with his friend, wasting time and doing nothing productive. His father would often see him walking aimlessly, joking with his friends, and he felt a deep disappointment every time. John had high hope for Jack. He had always dreamed that one day his son would grow into a responsible, hardworking man who would take care of the family and make a good life for himself. But as the days, months, and year passed, Jack seemed to be drifting further away from that dream. No matter how much John tried to talk to him, scold him, or guide him, Jack never seemed to change. One evening, as the sun was setting and casting a warm golden light over the village, John sat on the porch of his house. His heart felt heavy with worry. He knew that something had to change, but he did not know how to get through to his son. He had tried everything he could think of, but nothing seemed to work. As he sat there, lost in the thought, a plan began to form in his mind. It was a simple idea, but it might be the lesson Jack needed to wake him up. He decided that the next morning he would put his plan into action. The next day, John called Jack over. As soon as he saw him lounging in the yard and said, "Jack, I need you to do something for me today." Jack, who was lying on the grass and staring up at the sky, turned to look at his father lazily and asked, "What is it, Dad?" John said, "I want you to go inside the house, and in the old cupboard in the corner there is a watch. I need you to bring it to me." Though confused, Jack shrugged and went inside. He had never really paid much attention to the old cupboard before, and he could not imagine why his father wanted an old watch. But he did as he was told. He opened the creaky cupboard and found the watch. It was an old, worn-out wristwatch. The leather strap was cracked and fraying. The glass covering the face of the watch was scratched, but the hands of the clock still moved steadily, ticking away the seconds. Jack returned outside and handed the watch to his father. "Here it is, Dad. But what do you need this old thing for?" John took the watch in his hand, examined it for a moment, and then looked up at his son and said, "I want you to take this watch to the village market today and handing it back to Jack. Ask everyone you meet how much they think this watch is worth, and then come back and tell me what they said." Jack frowned and asked, "You want me to ask people how much this watch is worth?" The idea seemed strange to him. What could be the point of asking people about the value of such an old, broken down watch? John replied, without offering further explanation, "Just do as I ask." Still confused, but not wanting to argue with his father, Jack took the watch and set off toward the market. The village market was a busy place, filled with shopkeepers, farmers selling their produce, craftsmen displaying their wares, and people from all around coming to buy what they needed. Jack approached the first shopkeeper he saw and held out the watch and asked, "Can you tell me how much you think this watch is worth?" The shopkeeper glanced at the watch briefly and shrugged and said, "Maybe $40. It is old and pretty worn out, but this watch still works, so it is worth something. Jack nodded and moved on to the next person and asked, "How much do you think this watch is worth?" This time, the person took a closer look at the watch before replying and said, "I would say about $50. It is not in the best shape, but it is still a decent watch." Jack continued asking people around the market, and the answers were all similar. Some said the watch was worth $30, others $60, and a few even suggested it could be worth as much as $100. But no one seemed to think it was worth much more than that. It was clear to everyone that the watch, while still functioning, was not particularly valuable. After a couple of hours, Jack returned home and told his father everything he had learned. "Dad, I asked everyone in the market about the watch, and most people said it was worth between $40 and $100. No one thought it was worth a lot." John nodded thoughtfully, as though he had expected these answers, and said, "I see. Now, son, I want you to do something else for me." Jack groaned inwardly. He had thought the task was over, but it seemed his father had more in store for him. "Tomorrow, I want you to take the watch back to the market. But this time, don't ask people about the value of watch itself. Ask them how much the time inside the watch is worth." Jack blinked in confusion and asked, "The time inside the watch?" Not sure he had heard his father correctly. Jack asked, "What do you mean, Dad?" John said, "You heard me right. Ask people about the value of time." Jack scratched his head, not understanding what his father was trying to teach him. But he nodded and agreed to do as he was asked. The next day, he returned to the market with the same watch in his hand. This time, when he approached the people, he did not ask about the watch itself. Instead, he asked, "How much do you think the time inside this watch is worth?" At first, people looked at him as though he were crazy. Some laughed at him, thinking he was playing a joke. "The time inside the watch?" one person asked. "What kind of question is that? Time does not have a price." Others simply shook their heads and walked away, not understanding the question at all. A few people even told him to stop wasting their time. Jack felt humiliated. What was his father trying to make him do? He had never felt so embarrassed in his life. He could not understand the point of this strange task, and he began to feel frustrated and upset. Finally, after several hours of getting no real answers, Jack wandered into a small shop owned by an old man named Henry. Mr. Henry was known in the village for his wisdom and calm demeanor. He had lived a long life and had seen many things. So when Jack asked him about the value of time inside the watch, Mr. Henry did not laugh or brush him off. Instead, he smiled kindly and invited Jack to sit down and said, "The question you are asking is a deep one, even if you don't realize it. You see, time is something that cannot be bought, no matter how much money you have. You could be the richest person in the world, and yet you could not buy back even single second of time that has passed. Once a moment is gone, it is gone forever." Jack listened intently as Mr. Henry continued. "That is why time is so precious. It is the one thing that everyone has the same amount of, rich or poor. Every day, we all get the same 24 hours. But how we use those 24 hours is what makes all the difference in life. Some people use their time wisely, working hard, building relationships and pursuing their dreams, while others waste their time letting the hours slip away without realizing how valuable they are." Jack felt a strange sense of understanding wash over him. He had never thought about time in this way before. All his life, he had taken time for granted, thinking there would always be more of it. But now he realized that time was the most valuable thing he had, and he had been wasting it. Jack said quietly, "Thank you, Mr. Henry. I think I understand now." Mr. Henry nodded. Remember, son, the bad thing about time is that it passes, and once it's gone, you can't get it back. But the good thing is that you have the power to choose how you spend it. Do not waste it. With those words echoing in his mind, Jack left the shop and returned home. When he arrived, he went straight to his father and told him everything he had learned and said, "Dad, I finally understand what you were trying to teach me. Time is more valuable than anything else, and I have been wasting it all along. But I am not going to do that anymore. From now on, I am going to make the most of every second." John smiled proudly at his son and said, "I am glad you have learned this lesson. Time is a gift, and it is up to you to decide how you use it. Don't let it slip through your fingers." And from that day forward, his life changed completely. This story teaches that time is one of the most valuable things we have, and once it is gone, we can never get it back, no matter how rich or powerful we are. Time is the same for everyone, and it is how we choose to use it that makes all the difference. If you want to change your life, you must learn to use your time wisely. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed this video, hit like button. And for more such stories, subscribe to our channel. Thank you and stay positive.